are going to look at the Ghana Boundary Commission in perspective relating to the works that are being undertaken by the Ghana Boundary Commission. I wish to state that the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has stated that there are a lot of people who have heard of the Ghana Boundary Commission, yet they do not understand what we do. I also know that the Substantive Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has always been saying that we should try to get an opportunity like this to tell Ghanaians of our story. By way of introduction, the Ghana International Land Boundary Statistics are as follows. We share a land boundary with Togo, both land and Maritime. Start with the land boundary, and approximately the length of our land boundary with Togo is about 906 kilometers. We also share a land boundary with Burkina Faso to the northern part of Ghana, 590 kilometers. And with Cote d'Ivoire, our land boundary is approximately 730. In between, we have rivers and streams which occupies. Some of them are dry, some also are flowing, especially during the during the rainy season. On Ghana's international maritime boundary, currently we have a maritime boundary with Togo, Benin, and Nigeria, which covers 200 nautical miles. I must say that this issue, I'll come back to the issue of the Ghana-Togo maritime boundary, especially where currently negotiations are ongoing on it. We have a maritime boundary with Cote d'Ivoire, 200 nautical miles, and the length of Ghana's eastern to west maritime domain is about 780 kilometers at the extent of the exclusive economic zone. Now, as we mentioned earlier on, the Act 795 of Parliament established the Ghana Boundary Commission in 2010. Since 2010, only the governing body has been the organ that has been operational, meaning being integrated. Now, from 2020, the executive head of the Boundary Commission was appointed, and we came into full operations in 2021 with the employment of permanent staff and secondary staff and the acquisition of office space. We then continued setting up the office alongside the operationalization of our activities. The activities, efforts, and achievements of the Ghana Boundary Commission have all been geared towards the fulfillment of the Commission's mandate as spelled out by law and the strategic objectives set out by the Commission. The Commission's mandate has a wider implication for safeguarding the territory of the state at all times in collaboration with various actors within and outside Ghana. And just briefly, let me mention to you that one of the key characteristics of a state is that a state must have a defined boundary. And how do we have a defined boundary? You can only define your boundary, territory. You can only have a defined territory when you have defined boundaries. That is how important the Ghana Boundary Commission is, because the responsibility of defining our boundaries, both land and maritime boundaries, and to some extent air boundaries, is the responsibility or is the mandate that we are supposed to undertake. Now, by way of mandate, we're supposed to lead negotiations with a neighboring country concerning land or maritime boundary disputes between Ghana and that country. We undertake fiscal demarcation of land boundaries and delimitation of maritime boundaries. Whenever determined with a neighboring country, we place bows and maritime markers along some of the courses of the maritime boundaries of Ghana. Let me mention that so far as land boundaries are concerned, there is no dispute so far as our land demarcations are concerned. So what the Ghana Boundary Commission clearly is doing and is continuing to do now is reaffirmation. these land demarcations, we're not doing new demarcations because there is no dispute so far our land demarcations are concerned. We also to encourage negotiated settlement of border disputes in preference to litigation. In collaboration with relevant security agencies, we ensure the security of the boundaries of Ghana to safeguard the territorial integrity of Ghana at all times. Through negotiation, determine cross-border matters among communities, promote trans-border cooperation and local community development, advise government on international conventions in relation to the boundaries of Ghana and the signing and ratification of treaties related to land and maritime boundaries, address issues related to the use of natural resources that straddle land and maritime boundaries, formulate policies and programs on international boundaries, including land and maritime boundaries, and then perform any other function auxiliary to the objects of the Commission as determined by government. The vision is clearly stated on the slide to ensure that Ghana's land and maritime boundaries are effectively secured and managed within the framework of international law, peace and security, and the African Union and ECOWAS protocols of African and regional integration. The mission is to demarcate, delimit, and manage Ghana's international boundaries, including settling boundary disputes through the implementation of national legislations and regional and international conventions on boundary management and cross-boundary cooperation in Africa. When the Commission was established, we set out to come out with a strategic plan, and the key focus and objectives of our strategic plan are fivefold. First is based on institutional capacity building of the Ghana Boundary Commission, securing the land and maritime boundaries of Ghana, and this involves the limitation, reaffirmation of our boundaries with a neighboring country. And let me state here that there is no way by which the Ghana Boundary Commission will be reaffirming a boundary without the involvement of a neighboring state. It is done jointly with a neighboring state. Our responsibility gives us the mandate. The mandate of the Ghana Boundary Commission gives us that responsibility of discussing and negotiating or performing tasks with a neighboring state. There is no institution in Ghana that has that mandate of directly negotiating with another state so far as the reaffirmation or delimitation of our land and maritime boundaries are concerned. I want this to be clear. We also assist in boundary dispute resolution, cross-boundary governance, and the strategic policy framework. Now, since the Commission was operationalized, there have been a number of major activities that the Commission has undertaken. I want to first start with our activities on the northern corridor between Ghana and Burkina Faso. And the map that you see on your right also speaks to it. We've had a multi-agency mapping and operational exercises along the Ghana-Burkina Faso border. We've done it on a number of occasions, but let me rightly say that because of the situation in Burkina Faso, we've not had the full collaboration and cooperation from Burkina Faso in conducting joint reaffirmation. So we've not been able to do any joint reaffirmation, but then we've had a discussion with them and we are going to look at joint reaffirmation very soon. We've had a joint land boundary consultative meeting with Burkina Faso, and we've had a technical meeting with them. The consultative meeting was held in Paga in 2021, and just this year, in March, we had a meeting in Ouagadougou with our counterparts in Burkina Faso. During those meetings, it was agreed that we should start reaffirming our land boundary as soon as possible. So once that has been secured from the Burkina government, we should be able to start work on this as soon as possible. On the western corridor, that is between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, we've conducted a number of mapping and multi-agency assessments, mapping exercises along some selected areas on the Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire border, and specifically I'll mention Dollar Power. Dollar Power was one of the first engagements that we had on the land boundary with Burkina of Cote d'Ivoire, just because there was an incident that came up there. And then in subsequent visits, we've done with other agencies. We've gone there with security agencies, including Ghana Immigration Service, the Ghana Armed Forces, and what have you. We've also gone there with the Forestry Commission because it has implications for forest. The boundary has implications for the forest reserve in Dollar. We've also had the Minerals Commission also going over, and the Ghana Geological Survey Authority going over for joint assessment in that area, because both the Geological Service and the Minerals Commission activity, there are a lot of activities that are ongoing there that is affecting our land boundary, and that is what we've done in that request. We've also specifically, we've had a very good strategic relationship with the National Boundary Commission of Cote d'Ivoire, and we've had no less than 4 meetings either in Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire, so between the two commissions. We've ended up going further to set up joint mixed technical committees which are going to go into a number of activities for implementation. I must mention that the relationship and the activities that we have had with Cote d'Ivoire, National Boundary Commission of Cote d'Ivoire, have been very successful and very effective over the years, and we continue to collaborate in that regard. On the Eastern Corridor, we've also had a number of mapping and operational land exercises between Ghana and Togo. We undertook a joint Ghana-Togo community sensitization on land boundary reaffirmation exercise at Aflao, between Aflao and Akano. We've also done a reaffirmation on land boundary pillars, which was covering the phase 1, covering an approximate distance of 50 kilometers along the international boundary line. In the phase 2, we've just completed a 60-kilometer reaffirmation of land boundaries between Bagdade and Afegame in the central part of the Volta region of Togo. This activity just ended the latter part of last month. At the beginning of the exercise, we had the occasion to have the Honorable Deputy Minister to commission the sensitization exercise. But let me also mention that there have been a number of success stories between us and Togo. There was one time that we had a boundary problem at a place called Pulmanku in the Pusiga district. And when we went there jointly with the Togolese counterparts, on the spot we were able to resolve and announce to the whole world that the land boundary markings that was originally affirmed by the legacy documents is what should be respected. And the Togolese ceded that part that they were occupying to Ghana based on the negotiations and discussions that we had on the ground. On the maritime boundary activities, we have had, I alluded earlier on that we have about 10 kilometers, 10 nautical miles maritime boundary with Nigeria. We've had a meeting, an introductory meeting with our Nigerian counterparts, the National Boundary Commission of Nigeria in Abuja, sometime in October 2021. And we discussed the various ways so that we could jointly come out with a strategy in which we could delimit our international land boundary. We've also discovered our Nigerian counterparts on the overlapping continental shelf, which is beyond the 200 nautical miles with Ghana. That is something that is outstanding, and the reason why we have not continued with the discussions on the maritime boundary with Nigeria has been the discussions that are going on with Togo currently. Once those discussions are over, we would reignite those discussions with Nigeria. Ghana has a challenge with Togo so far as our maritime boundary is concerned. This came up since 2016. Therefore, the president of Ghana and Togo decided that Ghana and Togo should establish a technical committee, a joint technical committee, to negotiate on how to resolve the maritime dispute. These negotiations have been going on over the years. I must say that the negotiations they have reached a very important level where probably we may be seeing the negotiations coming to fruition very soon. But the negotiations are still ongoing. They are the final stages, and once that is done, that will be announced to the general public. So negotiations are going on very well. It's got to the involvement of the two head of states so far as these negotiations are concerned. And then we are hoping that once this is resolved, the Kotia Basin, which is very close to the boundary, to the international maritime boundary, will be open up to investors for oil and what have you and other activities, and even the fisher folk in that area. So once that is not resolved, we know that investors are waiting to see how that can be opened. So the negotiations are ongoing, and we are hoping that it will end soon so that the area will be open. On Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, you all remember that in 2017, the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea ruled in favor of Ghana so far as the international maritime boundary is concerned. Currently, what we are doing in Cote d'Ivoire is to proceed on the implementation of the ITLOS ruling. And we've had fruitful discussions with the National Boundary Commission of Cote d'Ivoire on how to proceed on this. The two commissions have been discussing details, and this month, the two commissions are even going to meet at the terminating point to discuss further on how to implement this. On our own, for the very first time since the ruling, the Ghana Boundary Commission, in conjunction with the Ghana Navy, has gone on a maritime inspection along the maritime boundary that was declared by the ITLOS. And I want to say that all is going on well. There have not been any violations so far as the international maritime boundary is concerned. We have had engagements with GNPC, the Ghana Navy, the Ghana Boundary Commission, with the support from the Ghana National Procurement Corporation, acquired a state-of-the-art drone. And this drone that you see